So today in the United States, the Supreme Court has gutted affirmative action as we know it. We know now that this means that race consciousness, considering race at all in college admissions in universities across the country, is now considered unconstitutional. Affirmative action happened only because of movement leaders, racial justice organizers, many of them Black women and Black feminists, that understood that the systems were deeply inequitable and that structural change was required in order to make sure that all students had access to quality education, quality higher education. We know that many of the universities and colleges across this country would not at all have the kind of diversity that they have now, both Black students, Latinx students, and other students of color without affirmative action programs. So what is profoundly disturbing is that affirmative action is seen as a way to create unfairness within college admissions, giving students, primarily Black students, a leg up. It's considered ways to make it unfair for other students around admissions. So they're not attacking folks who are part of legacy families because your parents are alumnus of these same colleges and universities. They're not saying it's unfair that you get to go to this university because somebody in your family made a donation. They're saying it's unfair because students who have historically been denied access from most systems of real privilege and power in this country, that those very students, by creating a fair, and it hadn't even been that fair the whole time, but a slightly fairer process, creates unfairness for all. It doesn't. What this is, we know, is deeply coordinated. And where is the money for the Black Feminist Fund commissioned? It's out this year. Check it out if you haven't seen it. We have a chapter all about the opposition. This is all coordinated and it is well resourced. The attack on affirmative action, the rollback of all abortion rights. This is a year marking the year anniversary of the end of the upending of Roe v. Wade from the Supreme Court. The attack on voting rights in this country, all of this, the attack on our trans sisters and siblings, all of this is deeply coordinated. It is all the same agenda. And so a few things that I am really clear on, that we're really clear on, that is important for us to hold on to. Winning, progress, liberation, freedom does not happen organically. It happens intentionally. Many folks are feeling like, at least in the United States, that it feels like things are going backwards. Things do not go forward by itself. We make them go forward. This moment requires us to be our most courageous, creative selves. Making sure that people are tired and exhausted, depleted, frustrated, chaotic, and not behaving strategically, that is a tactic of our opposition. It's important that we do them no favors. So at the Black Feminist Fund, and I know Black feminists everywhere, we are, and it's needed more than ever, to be coordinated. We are getting strategic. We already were strategic, but are deepening our strategy for what it means for this long game fight that we've always been in. We know this. This ain't our first time on the rodeo. That white supremacy continues to push back whenever they see our wins. All of the rollbacks that we are seeing, all of the pushback and the deep resistance, even the rage we're seeing in the form of things like this, come because they know Black feminists, Black liberators, those that deeply believe that progress is possible, that new worlds can be created. They know we are winning. And so it's important for us to be deeply strategic. We can't allow to unfold into chaos. We've got to be grounded. We've got to be strategic, we've got to coordinate, and we've got to resource our movements. One of the biggest concerns and fears I know many of us are holding is that this ruling does not just affect college admissions. We know it doesn't affect just colleges and universities and higher education. We all are concerned about what this means for all of us, for all of our sectors, all of our institutions, all the spaces we do our work. I'm hearing lots of conversation in the philanthropic and the resource space around how this might give some foundations and funding partners who have or should be resourcing our movements, that should be resourcing Black feminist movements, and out. because they're going to be nervous, or I think this now stretches onto them. There's lots that are going to have to make sense out of now about the implications it has. But at the end of the day, it is not time to just protect our institutions. And I say this to funding colleagues, funding partners in this work, and funders who I've yet met. This is not the time to protect your institutions or our institutions. It is the time to protect our values. It is our time to protect our people. And so if we really believe that racial justice matters, if we really believe in the leadership of Black women, of Black feminists, we have to get really creative and make sure that not only do the resources still continue to flow, move more money than you ever have before. We know that the ways in which we're seeing their wins now only have happened because of how the flow of resources have come, how the opposition has flowed resources to their movements without restrictions, long-term, really flexible. There are more of us in this philanthropic or resource world than ever before, and it's time we match our values, we match our frustrations in this moment, we do that consistently, and we move money and unlock money like never before. Like I said, progress, radical change, transformation, all these things that we say we want and we keep in our mission statements, like those things do not happen on their own. If we don't want to go backward, then go forward. And we only do that together. So fund Black women-led work, fund Black feminist-led work, fund trans communities, fund us all. And if you need to take risks to do it, be lucky that you get to take those risks. Because when it's said and done, and all of these stories and these moments are strung together to tell the narrative of who we decided to be, how do you want folks to tell the story of who you were? And I say this to my philanthropic partners and colleagues: move the money and move it quicker than you ever did before. I say this to our movement leaders, Black feminists, Black feminist organizers, many of folks who we've all been in conversations with that this raises concern, particularly for our folks in the US, but we also know that this has implications to our global community of Black feminist organizing, because the anti-Blackness and the pushback towards all Black wins has been a global struggle, and it always is. And I say to all of my family and all of our movement leaders out there, with all of the frustrations and with all the anger and all the concern and the fear, we're clear that the only antidote to this growing global anti-rights, anti-Black feminist agenda is the most powerful global Black feminist movement we have ever seen. And so I am honored that I believe we are growing that movement, and that movement deserves to be resourced the way it never has before.